conducting this interview for the Living Archives Project. And our weekly COVID metrics in Charlotte, we have an average of 55 cases that were reported in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County, which is a 43% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is comfortable to not wear a mask in this interview. Okay, so I'm here with Micah. Do you want to introduce yourself, describe yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me and for this amazing project. My name is Micah. I am a Caucasian female 52-year-old woman. I have, medium length blondish hair, straight, very straight, no curls. I always wanted curls. I have light colored eyes. I am in height like 5'6", 5'7". Gained about 30 pounds over COVID, so heavier than I used to be. I'm wearing a black shirt with a very, very rhinestoned, bobbly purple and pink and a little bit of blue necklace.
I love it.
And my name tag from International House.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we get started with any other interview questions, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about the hand map activity we just did and anything that it brought up for you that you wanted to share about your experience with the pandemic.
Yeah, the hand map almost made me cry, which I thought was fascinating because I've had a rich life, let's just say. I've not been bored with my life. Specifically regarding the pandemic, I did not do well in the beginning. I was working in retail at the time, and so I thought that they would, silly me, I thought they would shut it down and only have people shopping for groceries and necessities like that, toilet paper, things of that sort, and that was not what happened. So I took a day off and sat down with both of my kids and said, what do we need to survive for 3 months? That's how I started the pandemic. Because I was reading and researching, we're catching wind of it. I think in, January was the first whiff from Seattle, Washington, and then February. And so I think it was early March where I took a day off, which I had never called in sick before, but I was like, yeah, ever. And so I was like, okay, here's where we're at. What do we need? And so we talked about our food. We got canned stuff that was available. I'm pretty resourceful. And so sat down with my kids at the kitchen table, remember, and be like, what do we need? And then nothing changed. And I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. And then at that time, masks were a real issue. Mm-hmm. And so I remember at my job, I will not say, I was at a big box store. I will not name that company. But I remember I started wearing a mask because the guy I was living with was in nursing school. And so he had to have masks. And so I was like, awesome, I can go and protect myself at work. And I was going to get written up if I wore my mask because it was going to scare the customers. And I was like, oh God, please write me up. Please write me up. Because I've learned what I need to know that this is going to save my life and, protect me and my kids. So they never did write me up because I did take off my mask. Didn't want to be a troublemaker. But no, I knew I had learned about the mask protection and doctors wear it. So anyway, that whole political shit show, I'll just say it, really was hard for me. It was really hard for me. I felt like people literally were trying to kill me and my kids. So it was, the beginning of the pandemic was very awful for me.
And how long do you feel like that state of it, like those feelings and those attitudes surrounding masks and everything, how do you feel, how long did that last in your life, and did you begin to see a change at any point?
I say the first thing I did, so first of all, I was, I call it nut. Like I was not well psychologically at the beginning of the pandemic just because I did not feel protected. And so I do a thing called the Miracle Morning, and I had stopped doing that process So in March, everything shut down and we all knew it was a real thing. And so I would walk around the house like numb, like, I don't know what to do next. And so in April, I started the Miracle Morning process again, which is getting up early and you do 6 things. I journaled, I did meditation, I did affirmations, visualizations, you do exercise, and then you learn one thing. I didn't do the whole process, but every morning since April of 2020, I have actually done that process, and I never, ever, ever want to stop. So even this morning, I journaled, I sat, all I did was meditation and journaling this morning. But every morning before I do anything, I get up and I make a cup of green tea and I sit and journal and I sit and meditate. And that has really helped me psychologically to get through the pandemic. And I did not like the choices that our administration was making. I think that goes without saying for a certain population of America and the world. And so I didn't feel safe. And I don't think I felt safe until, and it is May of 2023. I don't think I felt safe until like maybe December or January of this. So maybe January of 2023 when masks were not required. I've had 5 vaccinations, booster, because I'm over 50. And so I finally feel safe not wearing a mask, although I still do wear a mask sometimes. But yeah, I finally feel safe. And so I guess it was not until 2023 where I finally felt like, oh, okay, I can go out in public and I'm going to be okay, because of all the vaccinations and the majority of people getting them. And people stopped dying as much. Yeah. People are still dying.
So I'm glad that you're feeling safer as of very recently. I
It's
feel
very
that in the
recent.
same boat. Still going to being in any big crowds, I just feel a kind of anxiety that I didn't feel before.
Yes, you're going to get something, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think the issue that I experience now with masking, and this is with flu too. So March 2020, we wear masks. I'm in the public eye. I am with the public all day, every day. And I wasn't sick at all that winter. And so I was like, oh, I like not being sick, right? And so then do I wear masks again? And so now I'm at the point where sometimes I want to wear a mask. Like if I have a cough or if I hear someone coughing, I'm like, oh, I want to put a mask on. But then now I feel like the pressure of not to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And so I am still struggling with, there are times when I want to wear a mask, but then realize this is really uncomfortable. Nobody else is wearing a mask. I see other singular people wearing a mask and feeling, seemingly feeling confident in that. I don't know if they feel confident in that, but maybe it's a protection for an immunocompromised person, a loved one, themselves. But at this point, I struggle with whether or not to wear a mask, because sometimes I want to, but I feel a little bit pressured not to. So, yeah. So that's where I'm at with the mask debate. I thought it was 100% ridiculous that it became a political ploy and they killed so many people so many people didn't have to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Was there anything else from your hand map activity that you wanted to talk about or that was brought up for you?
I can share. I'll share if you can. This is mine, purple. So people might be very surprised, right? So I'm a well put together woman. I've got privilege with my white skin, and I'm smart, and I'm somewhat pretty, and so that comes with this life with privilege. But I'm also an alcoholic. I'm 16 years dry last month.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yes,
Wow.
it's good. I did it at first for my children, and then after 3 years in sobriety and working through the programs, I went through AA and Al-Anon. It became about me about 3 years after I became sober, so that was exciting. But at first, I did do it for my kids because my dad passed away from alcoholism. I had a horrible, horrible stepfather. Like I moved out when I was 17 and then moved back in. And then also I was married, then divorced, and a single mom and devoted to my children. So my whole life, and I did it wrong, but we're gonna love what this ended up being. But my whole life is about my kids and I have 4 cats. And so about my cats as well. Right. And so just being a caregiver, I think, was a little more difficult in empathy, right? Like I'm empathic. So if you're sad, then I'm going to feel sad. So during the pandemic, that sucked, right? Because people were sad and people were sick and people were losing their loved ones. And I knew many people who lost direct family members to this stupid pandemic we didn't have to lose all those people, right? And so the empathy as being a caregiver, oh my God. It's so much to carry. And so that's what I see, like, oh my gosh, like I am I guess, I look at this and I say, oh, you're a caring woman. I'm a very caring woman. And I love, 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 love my kids my youngest just turned 18 and my oldest is turning 21 in 2 weeks. So I'm older than I feel and probably look. So, yeah, this was a great exercise, but it did make me feel lots of feels I wasn't expecting to feel, and here I am feeling them. So, but I enjoy my life. I'm very lucky for that too. Like I am one that finds, yay, the rainbow through the rain. And that carried, I think, a lot of people through the pandemic with me.
Yeah. What do you feel like were some rainbows in the rain of the pandemic?
I did get to be home more, even though I was still out working. I was home more, and I did see my kids more, and I was more intentional about spending time with them. I did not so my son went to a farm school where there were no electronics allowed, and then school closed down, and then they were on their computers for like 7 hours a day, and you can definitely see the impact that had. And so, just kind of breathing through like that difficulty of seeing both of my kids now consumed by the screen and audiovisual, and that is not the way I raised my children. And that was not a rainbow. You asked for rainbows. That was a dark, and I've never gotten them back. Like, we're all still struggling with a bit of screen addiction. Even myself, right? Like I need that endorphin hit of the blue light screen. And I play Ojai, just so you know. And I play Nonograms. Those are my 2. I've deleted everything else. And if I need a real hit, if I real struggle, I'll upload Candy Crush and I'll play, and then I'll delete it in about 2 days. So I'll give myself 48 hours of Candy Crush, and then I'm done. Yeah. So that's how rainbows out of COVID. Rainbows out of COVID. Wow. I think it was awful. I think too many people died. I loved Jacinda. I forget her last name. I think Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
Forgive my political savviness. I have no idea. But she was fabulous. And it was wonderful seeing all of so here's a great rainbow. All the countries that did great tended to have female leaders. And I'm like, let's learn from this. Let's not have power-mongering patriarchal men, fight for power. I don't quite understand the calculus in some leadership to not look at what we know to be true. I find that very difficult and very confusing. Like, I just don't understand the rationale between knowing something to be true and then not giving that to the people that you're responsible for. So I find patriarchal leadership confusing and stupid, like just ignorant, and greedy and power hungry. And so, but women leaderships, they did great during the pandemic and they kept a lot of their people alive.
Yeah, that is such a good observation. I love that. And I mean, speaking of just inspiring women, honestly, your story is so inspiring to me. And, you know, I have people in my family who have struggled with alcoholism as well. And the pandemic was extremely difficult. Like, that's when a lot of things came up, you know? And so, I mean, that's amazing to continue in your years of sobriety through living through a pandemic and being a single mom during that, and, you know, not having those adjustments of working from home that a lot of people got to have at least right away. And
I was very sad about that. I wanted to also organize my garage and did not. I could have done it in the evenings, but it was such a big time. And I really did struggle mentally during the pandemic. I did not do well. And so, like, it would be in the mornings, just get to the coffee cup, right? And then just get to 4:00 and then just get to bed. It was really, I mean, months and months of, I'm going to start going, very difficult mental wellness, you know. And then watching my kids do, you know, be on their screens all day. I mean, they did great. They were, you know, at one point I was emailing the teachers like, hey, can you guys do like 30 minutes in your backyard? Can we have that be an activity? Can they like get off their screens for lunch? You know, because I wasn't home a lot. And so, yeah, that was hard. But you get through and you cry and you heal. And nobody directly, no one that I loved directly passed away from COVID, nor even got super, super sick, you know? And so that was beautiful.
yeah.
And I felt incredibly lucky for that.
Yeah. Sounds like you have had like a beautiful perspective, and do you feel like this perspective, do you feel like COVID changed your perspective just on like life and what is important, and, you know, those mornings, how you like to start your mornings, miracle morning?
Yeah. Has it shifted my perspective? I don't know that it has. I have always been yay, life is great, I'm so excited to be alive, right? Like, I've always been that. When my son was born, he was crazy and I did not know what I had. Turns out I had an autistic son and he came out that way. So I didn't learn that till he was 7, because people are not great. I'm like, no, he's doing this. And they're like, no, he's fine. And I'm like, wow. Okay, so I'm going to live in crazy town for a little bit more. But so got his diagnosis at 7. But I've always been I don't like that phrase, but I've always been an optimist. Yeah. I became a conflicted optimist after my kids were born, because then you see how people react to you and your kids and your crazy kid. He's crushing life, though. Now he's 20. He's going to be 21, and he is one of the most fabulous human beings in the world. I will just share, he is autistic. He is now, I live in Matthews, North Carolina. He is hugely successful in Northeastern University in Boston. So he's on 4 different meds. He's got 2 different therapists. He's got, accommodations for his housing. And so it is not without guardrails. But he's crushing life. So after he was born and seeing how people reacted to him and telling me how I needed to raise him, and I became very strong when my son was born, because I'm like, I get one shot with this kid. I get one shot with my baby. I'm going to do it my way. So ended up divorced, had a second baby, but with the same, we weren't. So anyway, I had 2 kids with my ex-husband. And got so I became an optimist. After kids, I became a conflicted optimist, let's say. Then I was like, the world kind of sucks. The world doesn't treat people very well. We're mixed raced. I have mixed raced kids. And so, but through the pandemic, I guess I learned, I had a lot of anger about how people were being treated. And I'll just go ahead and say Republican and Democrat, although I don't love the clear delineation, because there are Democrats who believe in other ways of being, and there are Republicans who believe in other ways of, right? So we're all on the spectrum, so to say. But I did not like how they even killed their own people. It was just so maddening. So that's anger. I don't know that it changed. I still am a conflicted optimist. So I don't know that it changed a lot. I learned to accept more, just be like, you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. And so this is what it is. I will go hit myself with some iPhone time to numb out. I will go home. I will play with my cats. I will plant plants that are never going to grow in my garden. I'm going to try really hard though to get a tomato. Not great at it, but I try every year. I buy my tomato plants. And so I don't feel like COVID specifically changed my outlook on life. It maybe made me a bit more cynical, but I am fighting against that. I mean, I work very hard at my mental health. I work very hard at remaining a conflicted optimist. And so, yeah, I don't feel like it changed. I'm just sad. I was so sad about how people were treated and lied to and just not protected. Like, let's protect each other.
Yeah.
What? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Or not. Right?
Yeah. Do you feel like before COVID or anything, do you feel like there were other times in your life that you felt that same sense of like urgency and to protect each other, and I wish that everyone would get on board with that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I do not know if you know this. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017. I have a book available. It's called Open in the Front. It's called Open in the Front. It's a pretty good book, right? It is like talking to me, but it's my journey through breast cancer. And boy, people were I'm cursing. People were jerks through my initial needing to be diagnosed, but they were like, "That's nothing." And it was weird. But it was kind of like, that's so funny. I'm just seeing that the same way that COVID was treated for some people was the same way I was treated when I was, had something was different with my body, and they're like, "No, it's nothing." And I'm like, "No, clearly this is something,"
Yeah.
And so just
being like doctors or just
people, yes, doctors, yes, saying no, because they were doing ultrasounds, right? And ultrasounds wasn't showing them what they needed to see. They needed to do an MRI, which I found on the 3rd doctor.
Wow.
Because the first 2 were like, "No." And it's like, "Well, then what is this?" They're like, "It's nothing." I'm like, "It's something." Because I had a huge difference in my right breast. And they're like, "It's nothing." And I'm like, "No, it's something." And it just happened. And just denying the truth. I'm like, oh, here we are again. No, it's different from, And so I ended up having aggressive cancer that was caught, later than it probably should have been, right? Because people were like denying the truth of the situation. So it's just fascinating to me. Just say the truth. That is, if I had an underlying thing from COVID, like just say the truth. Here's what we know. Do that. It will protect us until we know more. Yeah. People tire me out.
Yeah, I think there's a big desire people want to have all the answers, and they want to give people answers they want to hear. And yeah.
The truth is hard, though. I mean, the truth is hard. Get it. It's hard. I was born into a family where you walked on eggshells. You know, I put in my little hand thing, one of the lines was my stepfather. My stepfather really shaped my life. He was a horrible human being. And the truth was scary. I got a D in one of my classes because I don't like history. And my mom literally helped me change the grade on my report card to a B so that he wouldn't get mad.
Wow.
So my mom even conspired with me to deny the truth. That's what I learned. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad I'm unlearning it. But what a lesson. And most of us do that because we're afraid of getting our ass kicked, right? Because that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think even with COVID, I think that there was even, and I think to this day, I mean, as we're going through this like inner conflict of wearing a mask and when to and when not, there is almost like that temptation to even lie just to ourselves, like whether it was, you know, in the earlier days where it was like, I had to tell myself some little lies so I can get through the day, or, you know, that like, it's all gonna be okay, or it's not that bad, or something like that.
Tiring lies we tell to ourselves. And, you know, and I will share, you know, with COVID, with money, I was very poor. And so you can't get, not poor, I'm rich. Use my affirmations. I'm a rich woman. I am an incredibly rich woman. Incredibly rich compared to so many, right? But I didn't have the resources I needed either. And I wasn't able to get them because I had such little, you know, your hours get cut. And all I had was that one job and, you know, still trying to raise 2 kids. And so you got to be home and, you know, and so when you have fewer resources, oh my God, it's like, it feels like it's like 5 times as hard. You'd say it's twice as hard. No, it feels like it's 5 times as hard because you can't get the therapy that you need. And then I kept wrestling. Do I need therapy? Should I get therapy? Okay, let me just start with the miracle morning process because I had already done it a couple times and it really, really, really helped me mentally. It really helped center and ground me every morning. And I know how critical that is for me. But I did. Like, I would like to have therapy, right? But there was no extra monies for that. It was just, let's get through the next month and see where we're at. Yeah. Let's get through the next month and see where we're at. And then let's get through the next month.
Yeah, just living month to month in survival mode.
No, it was day to day, minute by minute in the beginning, you know. March, April, May, and June of 2020 was literally for me minute by minute. Like, am I dead? Am I not dead? Am I sick? You know. And why are people shopping for patio furniture? Stop it. Stop shopping for patio furniture. People are dying. I am here with my mask on, and you're here breathing on me, and you're going to redesign your patio because you have money? Jerks. I'm just kidding. They're not jerks, but I you know... There was that. The haves and the have-nots. I was a have-not. So.
And so with your job at that time, were you considered an essential worker?
Yes.
And, yeah, so that would sound frustrating if you were like, okay, I'm here because I'm an essential worker. I'm an essential worker because you need to redo your patio or whatever.
Oh, it was stupid. It was stupid. Yeah, so I worked where there were groceries and also patio furniture, right? And so I thought, silly me, I thought they would rope off the store and be like, come get your essentials and then get in and get out. That is not what happened. But then I remembered how fortunate I felt, like I was able to buy a volleyball for my son. And so then we played volleyball every single day. Like our neighbors were like, "Are you guys going to be in the Olympics?" No, but we are outside.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. But I remember being lucky. I felt like, oh my gosh, I can buy a volleyball, and that's something that's outside. And so that was, so then I was conflicted. I'm like, I don't want these people coming in and buying petty furniture, but also I'm able to buy a volleyball, right? And so it's like, okay, well, I can see both sides of this. And also, let's just do the essentials, right? But yeah, I was considered an essential worker because I did work where there were groceries and, you know, we would have every morning, what's our status with disinfectant wipes, and there was a limit to how many you could purchase. And, you know, we had elderly hour where the elderly people came in. They were able to come in an hour earlier. You'd be like, we disinfected the whole store. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't see that. Right.
Oh.
So it was, you know, how are you going to disinfect an entire big box store? It's not a thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was an essential worker, you know, still not getting paid enough for a living wage. I still had child support. You know, thank goodness.
I totally forgot about the elderly hours. They did that at grocery stores where I worked too.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were in the morning, and I remember, so I started wearing a mask. I was the first one at the store, and then later on, people were like, yeah, you were the first one to wear a mask. And I was like, yeah, because I got a Google education on COVID, because I actually read it. I'm like, what is happening now? Blah, 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 and go down Google University because I am smart. I've got the internet, and I know how to research stuff, right? And I remember one of my very dear friends being like, it doesn't do anything. I'm walking through the break room. They're like, it doesn't do anything. And I'm like, keep reading. Just keep reading. Just keep reading. It does something. It protects me. And then, you know, within maybe it took a while. It took too long, from my opinion, to make it required. But within I think 4 to 5 weeks after I started wearing a mask, then it became optional. And after that, then it became required. Mm-hmm. You had to wear a mask. And then you had the angry people politicizing masks. For anyone not watching, I'm eye rolling. My eyes are rolled in the back of my head for the whole, I'm not wearing a mask. Dum-dums. Yeah. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone who didn't wear a mask and died. And I'm sorry to all of their family members who listened. So
were you there at that same job, like, at any time that they, after instituting a mask policy, like, then repealing that?
I was there. Yep. I went through I was at the same store for the whole process. So no masks. You're going to get written up if you wear a mask, even though I still did. And then mask requirement. And then I left just after that when my son graduated that school that was over on that part of town. And then it became optional, right? But I still wore mine. I mean, I was still, like, I'm in the public eye. I wore my mask for longer than probably most people did, just because I liked not being sick.
Yeah.
I was like, this is nice. But I did turn a corner recently where I'm just like, okay, unmasking. Because I got tired of it, right? So, but yeah, I mean, and it was hard the whole time. I mean, the CDC, if you looked at their stuff, that was, really, it's like a moving target.
Yeah.
And there was, inconsistencies in that regard. And, they had a huge job to do. So I get it. And also they needed an Anna to review their messaging, right? Anna's great at messaging, just so we're clear. Yeah. And so I think that, people are running these corporations. My autistic son was like, I'm excited to work in a corporation. And it's like, bro, they're run by people, and people are people. And I call it people be peopling, right? Like when someone cuts you off, I'm like, they're peopling again, right? The CDC did their thing. I was like, wow, they're really peopling up there. Like you would think that such an important job would have a few more guide rails to the messaging that they're putting out during such a critical time in the world,
Yeah.
right? In the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, like, I had never even heard of the CDC, never paid attention to anything that they said or did, until 2020. And then it was, like, every day on their website, and, yeah, just lots of twists and turns.
Wasn't very clear.
Yeah.
And then people were mad. So and with all the love to them, they had to deal with that administration, right? And that was, you're going to put lights up your butt. You're going to drink Clorox. You're going to do stuff that might make you die. And that's, oh my God. You remember that lady? That lady. Speak up. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was such a shit show. And it killed so many people. I would like them charged. I would like that administration charged with murdering tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, it is interesting to think, all the different ways that could have gone, all the different ways different administrations would have handled that.
Oh.
And, having the luxury of seeing that in other countries and
Yeah.
in real time, yeah, very interesting.
Devastating. It was devastating to watch such, I don't even have the words, toddler, ignorant ways of approaching it, right? One whiny baby man, they call him King Baby, if you want to look it up, and it was just shocking that we allowed it. And we allowed it. We allowed it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't go in there and say, 25th Amendment, or whatever, Title 25, someone's not fit. We didn't do that, right? There were a couple ways we could have gotten around it and saved more people, but... So, yeah, I have big feelings about that, and I'm sure that so many people do, and it was awful to watch. And even individually at my essential worker big box company, having to deal with the political issues that came up and that were not being addressed, and the science that wasn't being looked at, and the information that we were denied seeing so early on. Horrible. And the CDC had to deal with that, right? They've got half the country that's got, we're pretty much, half going, and I get where they had to accommodate.
Yeah.
They just did their best. I feel like for the most part through the pandemic, most of us just did our best. We just did what we could.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, and I think that is a great takeaway from it too, that just assume because everyone during COVID we all had this one big problem in common, and then we all had our own set of problems that, were worse because of COVID, or that were new as a result of COVID and lockdown and all that, and that became such a big thing too, just assume everyone's dealing with a lot right now.
Yeah.
And doing their best.
And still now, there are people making choices even today that and not related to COVID, but just not that I agree with. And I'm like, they are doing what they believe to be correct with their schema, right? With their experiences, their environment, their abilities. They're just doing their best.
Yeah.
And then I can create a healthy boundary. I don't want to deal with that person.
Yeah. Yeah, boundaries, that's another takeaway, I think, from the pandemic as well.
Yep. Not just masks and eye guards, but actual no. Saying no.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to come over and play? No, I don't. No, I don't want you to come over and play. No. I don't want to be sick.
Like you have carried that with you, like being able to take that, because in the beginning it was kind of easier to start setting those boundaries because of COVID, and now that things are getting a little better, are you able to still like keep setting those boundaries, or do you feel any difference?
Well, I learned boundaries when I got divorced, which was, I was in therapy and read a lot of books about boundaries, and so I have good boundaries. Now, like I mentioned before, I do struggle a little bit with wearing a mask. There are times that I prefer to wear a mask, but I don't, and it does feel like it's because of social pressure. Mm-hmm. So no, still struggle with boundaries on some, but no, with relationships and people, I'm very... Being a single mom with 2 kids, if you do it in the way that I did it, which I got very devoted, super devoted to my 2 kids, and they are rock stars. I love them, and, they are successful in all regards. For what society deems successful. They have straight A's. They're great in school. That is not what I deem successful. I deem successful, are you respectful? Are you kind? Are you taking care of yourself? And they are incredible at those life skills. My autistic son is better at adulting than most people, including myself some days. He is he's like, he calls this resource, this happened, called this resource, they'll be here tomorrow. And I'm like, you're crushing it. He's crushing life. He's so good at it. So yeah, no boundaries with relationships. I'm very good at it. I had to be, like with my kids, it was just protecting my kids. I was not at all good at it before I had my autistic son. And once I had my autistic son, I was like, oh, this baby is crazy. With all the love. And also, he needs protected, right? And he needs resources. And so how do I do that, with a difficult father and, and money limits and how to, and so, each day you get a little bit better at blocking, right? And then allowing others in. So I was super protective of my kids. And so that's where I really learned boundaries. And during COVID, it's just honing in those boundaries. What do I need? What do I need to say no to? What do I need to say yes to? Right? And how do I do it? And how do I get the strength to do it? Like I have 2 friends that I call for truth. Like, okay, this is happening. I'm terrified to do it. What do I do? One of them's always write it out. Write it out. Mm-hmm. Send it if you need to. Don't send it, but journal the truth of what you want to say, and then pick out the pieces that are safe to share, and protective of everybody involved.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. Journaling for me is the way I get through life. And
so in your morning journaling, you said that's something that you had done like a few times before COVID, and then
it's one of those habits, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point did you like pick that up to the point where you've done it every day since?
So I did it twice, and I highly recommend, if anyone's watching this video, check out the Miracle Morning. A bird just flew into the window. Hello, beautiful bird. Hal Elrod wrote the book, and he's one of these bombastic people who's like, let's do everything. And so he created this process. So I learned about it when I worked for a virtual company and read about it. I thought, let me try this. And within like 2 weeks, I had a podcast invitation. So it really opened up all of these opportunities in my life. And so then, of course, you get sick or something happens and then you stop doing it. So then I picked it up again a couple years later and then stopped doing it. And then in March of 2020, I am devastated by what's happening, how it's being handled, how to protect my children, how to protect myself when I'm in this space. Because I literally washed my clothes. When I got home, I would strip my clothes and wash them. I did that for about 2 weeks until it was like that is a lot of work. And so then I started in April of 2020, and I am committed to never stopping. I get lighter on some of my days, like on a Friday or Saturday morning. Like on a Saturday morning, for example, I will skip the Miracle Morning and I will just play Animal Crossing. And that is my miracle morning because I don't get to play Animal Crossing very much, and I love that game. I have blue roses. I've got everything. There's nothing I don't have except for a golden shovel, but it's hard to get because you have to do him on weekdays. And so that's one thing that I will replace it with, but that is complete joy.
Yeah.
And I make my French press cup of coffee. I've got my favorite creamer. I make sure I've got everything that I want. And so instead of the miracle morning process, I will do something that brings me complete joy and it has no bearing on anything.
I love that. I'm definitely going home and starting this tomorrow.
Yes, I literally can't recommend a daily practice enough. And you might not do all 6 things, right? Like, so for when I do all 6 things, the exercise piece, I'm only jogging in place for like 4 minutes. I'm just making sure that my heart rate gets up, and I do a minimum of 600 steps. I have I'm showing the camera my Fitbit with rose gold. But it really does. It takes a little while and you have to commit to it, but it really does shift our days. It really does bring into perspective, I'm okay, I'm here now, this is what I do every morning, this is how I start my day, and now I can move from that mentality, from that grounded space. It's incredibly important. I think, it would change the world. If everybody did that in the mornings, I do believe it would change the consciousness of our humanity, our shared humanity, just that intentionality.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like that's been my New Year's resolution for the past 4 years, has just been live intentionally. And I have to keep in mind, I haven't done it yet, But
that's one way. It's an easy. I say that. It's not true. It's not easy, but it is an intentional act. So you can put it on your calendar and be like, this is what I do every morning. And they say, his thing is do it before 8:00, just so long as you do it each day, you're good. If you wait until after work, sometimes it will get shifted. And then that's when you can break that pattern. Mm-hmm. And so doing it before you start your day, like I have a green tea because I had cancer. I have certain integrative things. And so I have, organic blackstrap molasses. And I'm not kidding. And mushrooms is the new thing to help keep cancer from recurring. But so I make a cup of green tea with organic green tea. I make it special. I make it pretty. And I have my molasses that I'm now used to drinking every morning. And it just is how I can remain this positive and focused throughout my day. So I am rooting for you to do some process, some combination of the 6 things that work for you.
Definitely will. I feel like just the concept of a daily routine and habits, I think that is actually something that I started during the pandemic because I was working from home, so every day the days were just blending together,
Yeah.
And there was such a loss of structure, and I turned to okay, I'm gonna get into skincare and hair care and
yes.
have my little routines there, and I have carried those through, but I don't know if I ever would have gotten into that without the lockdown and
right.
everything, and
right.
being on my phone so much too, just watching all these skincare videos and all of that I didn't really have time for or interest in before, but
and I was ta-da!
On my phones,
yeah. It's how I survived COVID as well as I did. It really, my morning routine is I think it's the only way I would have survived. Otherwise I would have had to have a therapist.
Yeah.
So every morning. And my kids would come down some mornings when I'm doing it, and sometimes they would sit and join me. I'm very flexible in that way. I have an orange cat, Sam, that literally I did Lent because every morning it is our process where I make my tea and she gets here in my face. And so I have to, as I'm journaling, I'm literally journaling over an orange, whining, purring cat who has been with me. I mean, she's 15 years old, so
Oh, wow.
she's an old cat and it's just annoying and beautiful. And she's like a Chihuahua, right? Like they have one person. I am Sam's. It was my ex-boyfriend's person, Kumquat Stefan, who you know. We'll just say his name. But it was his cat, and he wasn't, when we broke up, he wasn't able to take the cat, and so ended up with Sam.
I've heard about the reputation of orange cats.
Wow.
They're a little
Yeah.
chaotic
They are
and
psychotic.
big personalities.
Oh my gosh. She'll like literally walk over your face at night, and when it's time to get up, there's no denying that you're about to get up. So,
Yeah, pets, I think they were a big part of the pandemic as well for a lot of people. Like,
yeah, I heard people got dogs, and then when the pandemic was over, they had to go back. They like gave their dogs up. I'm like, really? Is that how we're doing this? But people be peopling.
yeah.
That's what they do.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time, but thank you so much for sharing everything that you have and like just opening up and being so vulnerable and honest.
Yeah.
And I want to give you a chance if there's anything else that you want to talk about from your experience, or if you feel like you got it mostly out.
Yeah, no. Just recapping that I wouldn't have gotten through it without a daily routine to break up the monotony, the sorrow. I think COVID was, for me, filled with sorrow about how people were being treated from the people who were meant to protect them. And how I'm incredibly grateful to have made it through with no loss of life for people that I am close to. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the protections that finally came in. I remember my son started school during the pandemic, my autistic son. So that was, we didn't know how that was going to go. Like, just survive, right? That was the whole thing. Like, just don't die. If you stop eating, call me, let me know. Therapists were on call. But he had to get tested every week. And so I really liked the way some organizations were taking care of their people. That was inspiring and loving, and just had hoped that everyone would have experienced that, which I did not, and then did because of a mandate, and so, yeah, just hope people are taking better care of themselves, and hopefully we have learned, if something like this happens again, which it very well could, how to protect ourselves and our neighbors. So thank you. This was interesting and brought up a lot of feels that I had about COVID and how our people were treated.
I appreciate that you ended it, sharing the things that helped you and are helping give you hope going forward. And at this point now, I appreciate that optimism, and
I was born with the optimism, which is nice.
Yeah,
it's good.
That was definitely a necessity for getting through these last few years.
Yeah. Shitstorm started in 2016, so but we made it.
Yeah.
We're still making it.
You're
every
doing a
day.
great job, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.